WNBA Finals. And so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened. I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments. And so all I'll say is just...
The doors to the conference room at the WNBA headquarters were reportedly locked tight. And the mood inside wasn't just tense. It was desperate. WNBA Commissioner Clark Engelbert didn't call this gathering to discuss quarterly earnings or routine scheduling updates. This was an all-hands-on-deck situation that insiders are describing as a frantic attempt to save the narrative of the league before it spirals completely out of control. The catalyst for this sudden panic wasn't a scandal involving a failed drug test or a legal issue, but rather a looming announcement from NBC that threatens to completely upend the hierarchy of women's basketball. For months, the tension has been simmering beneath the surface, with veterans taking shots at the new face of the league and referees swallowing their whistles while rookies get hammered in the paint. But the corporate overlords have finally seen enough. NBC, along with other media giants, is preparing to dump billions of dollars into the WNBA. But the word on the street is that their investment comes with very specific strings attached. And those strings are tied directly to Caitlin Clark. The emergency meeting wasn't just about basketball. It was about a hostile takeover of the league's culture, and what happened behind those closed doors is going to change the sport forever. But to understand why the commissioner is sweating, you have to look at what NBC just put on the table. This wasn't just a polite suggestion from a broadcast partner. This was a power move that reminded everyone who actually pays the bills. Sources indicate that NBC executives have been watching the current season unfold with a mixture of excitement over the ratings and absolute horror at how the product is being managed. When you sign a check that big, you expect your star asset to be showcased, not headhunted. The rumors swirling around the league suggest that NBC made it crystal clear that their broadcasting roadmap is centered almost entirely around the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. They aren't interested in the everyone gets a trophy participation mindset that has plagued the league's marketing for years. They want the Michael Jordan treatment. They want the narrative focused, the stars protected, and the storylines streamlined. The emergency aspect of the meeting reportedly stemmed from an ultimatum. Either the league gets its house in order and stops the internal sabotage of its biggest draw, or the network will step in and dictate the terms publicly. It's a harsh reality check for a league that has prided itself on collective struggle. But the days of flying commercial are over, and the people paying for the charter flights want to make sure the plane lands where the money is. What makes this situation so volatile is the commissioner's impossible position. Clark Engelbert is currently standing on a razor's edge, balancing 2 opposing forces that hate each other. On one side, she has the billionaire executives from NBC, Amazon, and Disney, who view the WNBA as a content farm and Caitlin Clark as the harvest on the other side. She has a players' union and a locker room culture that is deeply resistant to the idea of one player being bigger than a shield. During this closed-door session, it's speculated that Engelbert had to deliver the bad news to the old guard of the WNBA. The message was likely brutal in its honesty. The newfound attention, the salary bumps, and the exposure aren't happening because the world suddenly decided to appreciate the fundamentals of the game. They are happening because of a singular lightning strike of popularity. The tension in that room must have been thick enough to cut with a knife, because admitting that a rookie saved the league is a bitter pill to swallow for veterans who have been grinding for a decade with zero recognition. But the networks don't care about paying dues. They care about ad revenue. And right now, the data shows that when number 22 sits on the bench, the viewers change the channel. But the plot thickens when you look at the timing of this intervention. This emergency meeting comes right on the heels of the Olympic roster controversy, a decision that many believe was the first strike in this war between the networks and the league's coaches. Remember, NBC broadcast the Olympics. When the committee decided to leave the most popular female athlete on the planet off the roster, they didn't just hurt the fans' feelings. They allegedly cost the network millions in potential advertising revenue. There are whispers that this was the breaking point for the executives. They watched a guaranteed ratings bonanza get flushed down the drain because of basketball reasons and internal politics. This emergency meeting was likely the never again summit. The speculation is that the new contracts will have clauses that prevent this kind of self-sabotage in the future. If the league wants the big money, they have to play the big stars. It's a ruthless corporate mindset clashing with a pure sports mentality. And usually, the side with the checkbook wins. The rumor mill is buzzing that Engelbert had to promise that the league would stop trying to humble Clark and start trying to capitalize on her, even if it hurts the ego of every other player in the association. This brings us to the unspoken issue that was almost certainly addressed in hushed tones during the meeting: the officiating. You can't build a billion-dollar brand around a player who's getting clotheslined every time she drives to the basket while the referees look the other way. There has been a growing conspiracy theory among fans, and reportedly now among sponsors, that the league has been allowing an excessive amount of physicality against Clark to prove a point. It's the welcome to the W mentality, but to a casual viewer, and more importantly to a network executive, it looks like bad product management. If your star player gets injured because a veteran decided to send a message, the ratings crash and the investment tanks. The emergency meeting likely involved a directive to clean up the game. This isn't about rigging games. It's about asset protection. The NBA did it for Jordan. They did it for Kobe. And they do it for LeBron. The WNBA has resisted this star-centric officiating for years, clinging to a gritty, physical identity. But NBC isn't paying for grit. They are paying for highlights. The speculation is that we are about to see a major shift in how the games are called, and the players who refuse to adapt might find themselves fouled out or fined into oblivion. However, the resistance from the players is where this story gets truly dark. You have to understand the psychology of the locker room. For years, WNBA players have fought for scraps, playing overseas in dangerous conditions just to make a living. Now, the money is finally pouring in, but it feels like it's all credited to one person. The resentment is palpable. During the meeting, concerns were likely raised about a potential mutiny. What happens if the other stars refuse to participate in the NBC promos? What happens if the Caitlin Clark team becomes isolated from the rest of the league, socially and culturally? There are rumors of players privately messaging journalists, trying to spin narratives that Clark is overrated or that her fans are toxic. Engelbert has to manage this civil war before it spills onto the court in a way that damages the brand. The emergency part of this meeting was about containment. They need the veterans to smile for the cameras and accept the new reality, but egos are fragile things. The fear is that if the league pushes the NBC agenda too hard, the players might revolt, creating a PR nightmare that accuses the league of favoritism and disrespecting the pioneers of the game. Let's dig deeper into the money, because that's what this is really about. The valuation of the WNBA has skyrocketed, but it's a bubble built on the back of one specific demographic shift. The Caitlin Clark economy is real. Ticket sales for the Indiana Fever are outpacing the rest of the league combined in some metrics. When the Fever travel, opposing teams move their games to bigger arenas. The owners know this. They aren't stupid, but the coaches and general managers operate with a different set of incentives. They want to win games, and sometimes it means playing rough or focusing on defense. The disconnect between the business side, the owners and commissioner, and the basketball side, the coaches and players, has never been wider. This meeting was an attempt to bridge that gap by force. The message delivered was likely that the basketball decisions can no longer interfere with the business imperatives. If NBC wants a primetime slot featuring Clark, the coach can't decide to rest her that night to manage her load without a serious medical reason. The freedom of the basketball operations staff is being curtailed by the necessities of the media deal. It's a bitter pill, but when you're trying to grow a league from a niche interest to a global powerhouse, efficiency ruthlessly eliminates sentimentality. There is also a darker, more speculative angle regarding the specific NBC announcement mentioned. Some insiders believe NBC is planning a documentary-style series following the league, similar to Drive to Survive for Formula One, but with a heavy focus on the rookies. If this is true, it explains the panic from the veterans. They know that whoever controls the edit controls the narrative. If the cameras are following Clark and her peers, and the veterans are portrayed as the villains or the hurdles for the young stars to overcome, it cements their legacy as the antagonists in their own league.